You know that person who goes completely quiet when something hurts them? The one who says, "I'm fine," and means, "leave me alone." That person isn't cold, and they're not broken either. There's a lot more going on beneath that silence than most people realize. If you shut down instead of speaking up, welcome, you're about to feel seen. Today we're getting into the psychology of people who go quiet when they're hurt, the one society calls closed off, but science calls something else entirely. That silence isn't a flaw. It is an emotional immaturity. What your brain does when you're hurting is one of the most complex responses it can produce, and the fact nobody explained it to you doesn't mean something's wrong with you. Most people simply don't have the language for it yet. When you go quiet, people assume you made a decision, like it's calculated. But that's not what's happening inside you at all. Something in your body shifts. It's a quiet closing. Words become harder to reach, your chest gets heavy, and that's not you being difficult. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it was built to do. Researcher Peter Levine spent decades studying what stress does to the body, and the freeze response is just as hardwired as fight or flight. When pain feels too big to process, your brain pulls the emergency brake. There's a region in your brain responsible for language, and it goes quieter during emotional flooding. So when someone says, "just talk to me," and nothing comes out, that's not stubbornness. You're not shutting people out. You're holding yourself together. This didn't start recently. No one is born like this. Babies scream, toddlers cry on the floor without a single thought about whether it's appropriate. At some point, something taught you that expressing hurt out loud wasn't safe. Maybe emotions were treated like inconveniences. Maybe you got told to stop being so sensitive. Maybe you opened up to someone and they minimized it, or used it against you later. So you adapted, not because you stopped feeling, but because feeling out loud kept costing you something. Psychologist John Bowlby built his career on one idea. How we handle pain comes from our earliest relationships. Your silence is not a character flaw. It's a survival skill your younger self built to protect you. And now here's the part that might genuinely surprise you. While everyone sees stillness, your brain is anything but still. You're processing deeply, rapidly, with a thoroughness most people never apply to their emotional lives. The regions tied to self-reflection and future outcomes are significantly more active than average. Your quiet might be one of the most mentally busy states a person can be in. Did I contribute to this? Have I felt this before? What is this actually about? If I speak right now, will it come out right, or make everything worse? You're not avoiding the problem. You're stress testing every angle of it first, because for you, speaking before you understand what you feel carries real risk. Most people see still water and assume nothing's happening beneath the surface, but you know better than anyone. Still water runs deep. Here's something about you that almost nobody recognizes. Part of your silence is protecting the people you love. You know what lives at the bottom of that silence when the pain is fresh. If you speak before you've processed it, what comes out can't be taken back. So you hold it, not to punish anyone, because you care too much to blow it apart. There's a concept called the window of tolerance. It's the emotional sweet spot where real communication is actually possible. Outside that window, no one can hear anything clearly. You already knew this instinctively, even without a name for it. Your silence, as uncomfortable as it makes people, is often the most protective thing you know how to do. You're not avoiding the conversation. You're waiting until you're actually capable of having it. But here's the painful irony, and this one stings a little. The thing that would help you open up is almost always the opposite of what you get. People push, they follow you from room to room, and every time that happens, it confirms the thing you've always quietly believed, that your way of processing isn't valid unless it's immediate and on someone else's timeline. What you actually need is the hardest thing to ask for: patience without pressure. Someone who can sit in the discomfort of your silence and trust that you'll come back. Someone who doesn't make your stillness about themselves. Research backs this up. Zero pressure to perform your feelings makes people open up more, not because they were forced to, but because it finally felt safe enough to. You're not asking people to read your mind. You're asking them to trust that the silence isn't abandonment. It's just how you find your way back, and the people meant to be in your life will learn that. Here's the thing that's really worth sitting with. Because you don't speak until you're truly ready. When the words finally come, they mean everything. You've turned them over 100 times before they leave your mouth. You've checked them for accuracy, for fairness, for truth. You don't say things you don't mean. and you don't weaponize your emotions to win an argument. When you finally tell someone how you feel, it's not a reaction, it's a conclusion, and that is genuinely rare. In a world where people say everything immediately and mean maybe half of it, you say less and mean all of it. The people who've been patient enough to wait for you know this about you. When you say something matters, it actually matters. There's no performance, no noise, just the truth you took your time to find. That's not emotional unavailability, that's emotional integrity. And when you put all of this together, something really important becomes clear. You go quiet when you're hurt because your nervous system is protecting you, because you learned early that vulnerability had a price, because your brain processes pain with a depth most people never reach, and because part of you is always quietly protecting the people you love, even from yourself. You are not cold. You are not manipulative. You are not broken, or difficult, or too much, or somehow not enough. You are someone who feels things deeply and takes the time to understand them before speaking. In a world that rewards whoever reacts fastest and loudest, that quiet, careful way of moving through pain will never stop being misunderstood by the wrong people. But the right people, they'll learn to sit in your silence without fear. They'll learn that your stillness is not distance. It's presence, the deepest, most considered kind. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not soon, you'll find it a little easier to let someone in before you've figured everything out. Not because the silence was wrong, but because you finally feel safe enough not to need it quite so much. That's not a flaw you're fixing. That's healing. And honestly, the fact that you're here trying to understand yourself better means it's already happening. The silence that once protected you doesn't have to be the whole story anymore. It was never about being broken. It was about being careful with something that mattered, and carefulness, real carefulness, is never a weakness. It's a form of respect, for yourself, and for the people you love. Somewhere along the way, someone taught you that quiet wasn't safe. But quiet was never the problem. It was always the proof that you cared enough to get it right. You've spent so long protecting everyone else from your unfiltered pain. Maybe it's time to let the right person see a little more of it, slowly, on your terms. Not because you owe anyone your silence, and not because you owe anyone your voice either, because healing was never about becoming someone louder. It was about becoming someone safe enough to be soft with. And you're already further along than you think. Every time you noticed the pattern instead of just repeating it, that was growth. Every time you chose your words carefully instead of staying silent forever, that was growth too. There's no timeline for this. There's no version of you that's behind. You're exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn, and that, more than anything, deserves to be said out loud. So if this felt like someone finally handed you the words for something you've been carrying, know that you're not the only one who's ever felt this way. There are more people like you than you probably realize. People who go quiet not because they don't feel, but because they feel everything, all at once. And somewhere out there, someone is learning to sit with your silence the way you deserve. Someone who won't chase you down a hallway demanding answers you don't have yet. Someone who'll just wait, calmly, without making it about them. That person is out there, and you're allowed to believe that. In the meantime, be patient with yourself the way you wish others would be. You didn't choose this pattern, but you get to choose what happens next, and every small step towards speaking, even imperfectly, counts. You don't have to have it all figured out before you say something true. You just have to be a little more honest than you were yesterday. That's enough. That's always been enough. If this resonated with you, you're not alone in it. Subscribe if you want more of this, the psychology behind the things nobody explains. There's a whole side of yourself waiting to be understood, and every video like this one is one more piece of that puzzle. So take a breath. You made it through this one too. That quiet strength you carry, it's not going unnoticed anymore. Not by science, not by the people who matter, and hopefully, not by you either. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, be a little gentler with the parts of you that go quiet. They've been working harder than anyone ever gave them credit for.